Hey everybody, Nick here, and today I got a review for you of this big little guy, the Kizer Sheepdog. This guy here, I believe the formal model number is the KI4488. It's by Sheepdog Knives. It's an interesting knife. Let's do a size comparison for you first here. Spyderco Delica, Ontario Rat number 2. You can see in terms of sharpened length, it's not so far off of the Rat 2 here. Ontario Rat number 1. Spyderco PM2, why not? And, my favorite weirdly shaped blades, the Grimsmo Norseman over here and the Graham Midtech Razel over here. So, anyways, let's go ahead and jump into... Actually, wait, no, I'm sorry. I got to acknowledge something very important here. I want to thank my buddies Frankie and Bird over at the Birdshot IV channel for sending this guy along. They're pretty entertaining folks. They also do gear reviews. But they sent this guy along to me with a warning, which is, Nick, you're not allowed to say anything bad about this knife. But, of course, I need to be fair to my viewers here. I can't just softball a review. So I've come up with a compromise. What I want you to do is keep an eye out for the la, I can't hear you bird. Whenever this little bird is on the screen here, thank you very much to Frankie for the drawing, I'm going to need you two to go ahead and clap those hands over those ears and mute the channel or whatever, because you may be hearing things you don't want to be hearing. So keep an eye out for the la, I can't hear you bird to avoid any sort of pain there, Frankie and Bird. But again, thank you for sending the knife along for review. So let's go ahead and jump into the good. You won't need the bird for that. Moving on. Okay, so first on the good side, I do love the Sheepdog Knives logo back here. I think it's really nicely done. It's a great logo, and it's printed beautifully as well. And it fits nicely in this little cutout here. Honestly, it's way classier than Kizer's mess on the front here. So I appreciate that very much. Nice logo, nicely done. The blade on this guy is pretty damn good too. The steel on it is S35VN, which is a great steel. Absolutely good to go. It's got a nice swedge to it in the back here. It's a fairly wide blade. I mean, it's thick. You can see here, where the heck the PM2 go? Thickness-wise, it's actually a little bit thicker than the PM2 here, but at the same time, because it's so tall, it's not the end of the world. It's not like you're trying to wedge it through something very quickly, unlike for certain other knives like your Medford Praetorian here. So that's kind of a beautiful thing. It's got a nice swedge to it. It's got a nice sharpening choil to it that misses the plunge grind entirely, which is good. Just a little tiny bit of belly on it. The edge is not factory, by the way. This was done by the Bird. And one thing to point out, though, is that the tip of this guy is not sharpened, unlike on, for instance, your Graham Razel. And that's what distinguishes this as a cleaver blade from being a Razel-style blade, where the tip is actually sharp. So, there you go. Blade on the whole, though, is pretty nice. The lockup on this guy is good. Locks up about 15%. No real lock stick to speak of. Good lock by tension. The flipper itself, the tab, is nicely done in that it's very effective, but it's not too pocket peckery. It's big, but because it's hidden in this little kind of drop and recess, it's not so prominent. Honestly, I love this flipper tab. When I saw it at first, it was like, that's really weird looking, but it's really well done. I appreciate it very much. The location's good, the prominence is good, and it's also in a good position relative to the rest of the blade here. You can see here that it's not going to be blocking your blade for actual use, which is great. Honestly, this is a knife that you can still make kind of pushing down cuts on, and you're not going to hit the flipper tab 10 minutes before you get to what you're cutting on. Appreciate that. Sorry, I'm just getting over a cold here, so it's life. Let's see here. Titanium on this guy is very nicely contoured. You can see that it is actually rounded off, which is good. It makes for some pretty decent ergonomics. It's not the best knife ever ergonomically, but it's more than fine. At least in my smaller hands, it works pretty well. And it's also been milled out in a couple of places here to reduce the weight and make the balance actually okay. A knife with this big, thick cleaver sort of thing on the front could very easily be front heavy, and this guy is a little bit on the front heavy side, but it's not bad particularly, and so the milling is a good thing. Speaking of milled, the clip on this guy is a milled clip, but it's actually a very good milled clip. You can see here that it matches the design of the knife overall, but it also has spring to it, and it also gets in and out of the pocket. It's got a good ramp to it. This is a great milled clip. Kizer did a great job here. That I can't argue whatsoever with this guy, and it's also canted a little bit, which helps the knife to hang back in the pocket a little bit more, which I appreciate very much. Then finally, the pivot on this guy looks pretty. You can see here it's got this little collar to it, but it is just a Torx in the middle there. It looks proprietary and fancy, but at the end of the day, it isn't. So I appreciate that very much. Let's talk about the great of this particular knife. So on the great side, for me at least, is the action. This is a great action on this knife. The detent is great. It gives just enough force that the blade pops out reliably, but it's not overly onerous. It works in either approach, either as a kind of light switchy flipper or as a press downy sort of flipper. It's just, the detent here is great. It fires this heavy blade at any angle you care to. There's absolutely no concern with this knife not flipping. So the detent is great. And also, I gotta say, letting it shut is pretty damn good too. It's got a pretty much fall shut sort of action on this guy. Absolutely great action. I really can't argue with that. And the flipper tab itself is well designed. I mean, just on the whole, this knife is a real pleasure to use. And so, action-wise, this knife is great. I can't really argue with that. And this is one of the very better, actually, I'd say this is probably the best action I've had in a Kizer. And that's saying something, because Kizer at the top of their game really can do great in terms of actions. Let's now go on to the, I can't say anything bad, so let's talk about the slightly less good about this knife. So on the slightly less good side, and remember, Bird, when you see this bird, you need to stop listening. So the price on this guy is absolutely perfectly okay, because $204 is just on the edge of fine for this guy. The materials and the build quality justify it, but Kizer is really starting to leave their value roots behind. This is not an inexpensive knife, and I think they're just on the edge here in terms of overall value. Next, not quite so stellar, but still pretty excellent thing is that this blade is not going to get injured ever. And that's because it's thicker than a frozen milkshake. I mean, seriously, the thickness of this blade is a little bit out of control. The depth of it helps. It would have been more helpful if it were full flat ground or even just ground a little bit thinner. But it's definitely a little bit hardcore. Reprofiling the edge is definitely helpful for the cutting, though. You can hopefully see here it is a little bit thick behind the edge at the start, and so that little bit does definitely help. This is a blade, first and foremost, that is really style concerned. Because, let's face it, this blade has been designed to fit an aesthetic, and that really did come first. I mean, some people are absolutely gonna love this design, but some people are really gonna hate it. And it's really designed with this cleaver sort of aesthetic in line. I mean, and there's no tip for sort of a poking cut. You may be able to get away with kind of putting in it, but it's not going to be great in that way, and it doesn't have the advantage of the sharpened tip here on the end there. And couple that with the thickness, this is really designed, I think, primarily for the eye, but it happens to work. It works pretty decent for EDC, nonetheless. Now let's talk about the very, very less good, because I'm not allowed to say anything ugly about this knife. Then finally, on the very, very less good side, well, there is no concern whatsoever that some rogue malicious agent is going to disassemble your knife and injure it. Because this knife is a total pain in the neck to take apart. Hopefully it was just this particular knife. I don't know. Kizer does tend to be fairly inconsistent in these things, but this guy was an absolute pain in the neck. I needed to use an incredible amount of torque to put that down, and couple that with Kizer's really stupidly soft screws. That was touch and go. Like I said in the video, it's fine that it's easy to disassemble, but that was really problematic. So you got to keep that in mind. This is going to not be a knife that you're going to want to disassemble if your experience is anything like mine. If that doesn't matter to you, then this is not a concern. But anyways, there you go. Second thing is that you will never forget this knife. You will always be very comfortable in your knowledge that this knife is in your pocket at any given moment. And that's because this is ridiculously wide in the pocket. I mean, seriously, this thing is kind of over the top in the width. I mean, the handle itself is bigger than a Rat number 2. And, you know, the Spyderco PM2 is a big knife in the pocket. It's nice and thick. But this guy is thicker on every dimension, and it's also huge. I mean, seriously, if I line the PM2 up here, this guy has got a whole bunch more width to it. This is big in the pocket, 100%. This little clip here being canted is a great approach to making sure this minimizes the amount of space in the pocket. But it's not good enough. It sure doesn't help. So this knife is just huge in the pocket. You're going to feel it every moment that you're carrying it. You know, if you got huge pants, if you're wearing 90s style Jinkos, it's not going to be a problem, but for some it could be a concern. Let's go into the final conclusion here. Look, this is in many ways a great knife. It's got a really unique design. It's well implemented with great materials. It's got a great action. And there is absolutely a lot to love about your Sheepdog here. That said, this design isn't really going to be for everybody. This is a knife that you have to buy if it looks cool and interesting to you. And if you want to be carrying something that's out of the ordinary, that's unusual, that's different. Don't get me wrong, I love me some weird blade shapes. I'm not going to sit here in judgment. But this is, you got to buy this because you love the cleaver aspect, because you love the style of it. Because if you're just after a functional pocket knife, you can do a lot better. There are a lot of other knives in this kind of range, you know, less than $200 that are really excellent options that, I don't know, that may be a little bit more suited to everyday carry. So it's probably not a great choice, I think, for most people. But for the right person with the right tastes and the right needs, this really could be an absolute gem. So, thanks, Frankie and Bird, for sending it along. And if you think this would be a great choice for you, you should totally pick one up. Hope this has been interesting, Frankie Bird. I hope I have maintained your delicate sensibilities, and everybody else, hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. And that if you can pick one up, sheep, you do? Get it? Because it's the Sheepdog? No? All right. That wasn't very good. I should have put the bird up for everybody for that one. Bye now.